Hello, my name is Lucas Wong, and thank you for having me. As of recording this, I just finished my first semester uh, of education classes at Georgia Southern. I want to become a future Georgia educator, and one of those. So I just got into the pathway classes now. But this past semester, I just finished up a class called Investigating Critical and Contemporary Issues in Education uh, with a professor named Dr. Pugh. In this class, we talked about the school system and how it functions um, inside and out of the school, as far as like with students, with teachers, with admin, and then even like the higher ups, like the federal government and stuff like that. For example, one week we talked about how schools get curriculum and why they get curriculum, and where they get it from and stuff like that. So, um, and we also in during that week we even talked about where the curriculum even came from, like, and why certain schools have different curriculum across the board, and it's just how weird the curriculum is set up from school to school, or even county to county, depending on if one county is working together, like if multiple schools in a county are working together, than other schools in another county, type thing. Um, Another thing we learned about, um, one of the so they're sectioned off by weeks, but one of the weeks that we topics during a week that we talked about was um, the philosophical foundation of schools, and how there's so many philosophical foundations within um, the school system, and theories and different ways to teach, and none of them are really like the correct answer, but there's some bad ones, like there's some different things that fall into that. Lastly, I want to talk about my favorite part of the entire semester. um, for me as a student in this class, the very first week, one of our assignments that we had to do was called Why Education? And we had to explain to Dr. Pugh and to my class, and to the classmates, why do I want to be an educator? There's two reasons why I love this so much. And I know it's less about policies and stuff within the school, but I feel like this needs to be talked about. One of the first reason is, as a classmate, it makes you open up to your other classmates that you may or may not talk to a lot, and it sort of shows them where you're coming from, what your backstory is, why you want to be an educator, and what's your motivation behind why you want to join, why you want to be in the education field. The other reason is more on a Dr. Pugh's perspective, or at least me to Dr. Pugh. I feel like him opening up class, the first week of class, saying, why do you want to be an educator, shows that he wants to know that same backstory, that same motivation, so then he can help us individually try to reach that goal, um, and that passion, which actually which is into my favorite educational philosophy, or I guess theory. Um, And that is, as of right now, my favorite theory is the motivation theory. And within that, there's all these other theories. But the subclass theory, as I like to call it, that I like is called the interest theory. And um, not to dive too deep into it, but um, I like this so much because it's essentially it essentially states that the student likes to learn because the subject is interesting. Um, so it so if you don't have anything interesting or something that's like personal, that makes the connection between student, lesson, and teacher, you're not gonna have that sort of you're not gonna have that student want to learn, which is what every teacher wants, right? Um, this theory specifically reaches out to me because um, I have that belief that there was a saying I heard once where it said, if a student doesn't want to learn, they won't. And I believe that because you got to have motivation. Everybody across the board, student, parent, teacher, construction worker, whatever, they have to have whoever. They have to have an underlying motivation of wanting to do something. Like, even if you don't like the job, say it's like a construction worker, they don't like the job, or whatever other example there is. You have their underlining motivation is to get paid. They want that money, and they want to get that money so they can eat or pay for their rent or whatever. So there's that underlining motivation. Well, I feel like we need more of that in the classroom for the students. That way, the students have motivation to learn what you're teaching them. And they won't just sit there and argue like, like the very common question, will we need this in the future? Will we need this in our future? I feel like we need to do something on that line where the students are motivated. But as I said earlier, I'm only one semester in at this point of filming this little video, so I'm not too familiar with theories and philosophical questions, educational wise, and stuff like that. So, thank you for having me, and